Check and let me know. All right. I think just 1 minute to go. I'm doing a sound check. Shravan, can you hear me? Whoever is here, lovely. So if anybody can hear me, just type in a message that you can hear me. I'm also going to do a little bit of a screen share. I'm pretty new to this, so I'm assuming everybody can hear me. All right. So I'm just playing through some of my pictures before starting. So people who don't know me, who are new, it would be nice to sort of have a look at some of my work. All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Ramit Batra, and first of all, I would like to thank Godox for having me here to share my little bit of knowledge that I have about lights and wedding photography. So today's session is I would like to be keeping it a little more interactive than how we conduct workshops, because honestly, having a light workshop online is very difficult without actually getting to do stuff. So I'm going to go back to the stuff that we have done, the photography that we have done, and we are going to take questions on it. We are going to dissect the images on how we photograph our weddings and events. I had kept this open for questions in the last 24 hours. So I'm going to first start with the questions that I got from Facebook and Instagram. I'm then going to proceed to the bigger questions. And finally, I'm going to come to the live Facebook and take on your live questions. Aman, Mahendru, a lot of other people who have asked questions. I am trying to keep a record of it, but I think around the 6:30, 6:40 mark, if I'm not able to reach your questions, you can just mention your questions again. So I'm going to start with a list of questions that I have. So first of all, people have been asking me what are the flashes and modifiers that I use. See, for weddings, my main concern is traveling with the equipment. I'm sure by now you must have seen that most of our work are destination weddings. We generally shoot in destinations away from New Delhi. So be it Thailand or Jaipur or Udaipur or Dubai. So most of our work is away from home. So we have to carry all our equipment. With airlines putting in a lot of restrictions on what can be carried, we have to restrict ourselves to smaller lights. So my favorite these days is the 8200. It can be used during the daytime when I'm doing pre-wedding photo shoots. It can be used for compensating very strong lights in the evening during Sangeet. So this is my go-to light. I generally keep one of it. I mean, if we are a team of 4 photographers, I will generally have about 2 or 3 lights in all for the team. The second most popular light that we are using is the V1. The V1 is super easy to work with because it's got like a magnetic pop-on filter thingy. So you can just put in a diffuser on top, or what I use a lot in weddings, which of course we are going to be covering, is the grid. So this is pretty much my favorite combination. I generally carry 2 V1s or a V860 depending on what we are doing, mostly V1s. This is our standard combination: 2 V1s and one 8200 Pro per photographer is what we usually carry. So that is the primary light system that we use for our destination weddings. I love to use the 400. In fact, where I'm sitting, I'm being lit up by 280 600 Pros, which I'm just using the modeling light from the 2 lights. So I would love to take these lights to destination weddings because they are powerful. There is 100% surety of the flash being popping during the Sangeet or during key elements. But the only restriction is it's too heavy. I generally don't put in my stuff in check-in baggage. I generally like to carry it with me, so it's generally a little too heavy. But wherever we are doing a road travel like Jaipur or Chandigarh, we love to take our 80-400 Pros with us. And I will slowly show you how it generally becomes my main backlight for a lot of scenes. So that's the first question that I got. The second question was how to achieve color tone in images. So color tone in images, a lot of people are also asking, how do we change white balance in the Godox light? We don't change white balance in the light. We don't achieve color tones because we are using a particular kind of light. It's a combination of your settings in the camera and the kind of light you are using. Putting on a top filter, maybe a orange filter or a blue filter, will definitely change the color of the light, but that is the only way you can change the color and the tonality of the light. I think somebody wants to talk about color tones in my images, which is more of a Lightroom, Photoshop kind of a question. But in terms of lights, I have these little diffusers. So you can see an orange filter, a slightly reddish filter, a very light yellow filter. So these are the little filters that we use when we are overwhelmed with red, yellow, or green or blue light at a wedding destination. So it's very easy. Whatever light you're using, even if you're using a V860, all you need to do is just pop up one orange filter, or and your light color changes. Okay, so that was the second question. The third question somebody asked me was, my style of light use is very different from what the newcomers are using. Okay, so now that is like a full conversation. So what I like to call my lighting style is invisible light. We are not a very big fan of high key lighting, which is very popular these days. Most of our destination weddings that I'm photographing, my client has invested a huge amount of money creating beautiful decor of that wedding. And if I'm going to use high key lighting, if I'm going to use very strong light and kill the background, it is going to sort of undermine the amount of effort, the amount of money that my client has put in. So if given a choice, I will always go for diffused natural lighting, which goes well with the background. It blends with the background. So that is my style. We call it invisible lighting. People who have worked with me, people who know how I work, will always come to me to check what kind of level of background and foreground we are doing, because I always like to have a balanced look to it. And we are going to sort of show you some examples. Okay, let me just put this in screen share. Okay, so I hope you're able to see the screen. This is, I was just finishing a wedding edit, and I would like to show you some of the images that I'm talking about. So you can see this image. I don't know if you can see the mouse, but this image is backlit with a AD200 Pro, and it has a couple of diffused front key lights, one on the left and one on the right. Are you able to see? Can somebody tell me if you're able to see this properly? So can you see my mouse on the left side? So this was a 3 light setup. I think I'll probably draw this. Okay, I think it's going to be too complicated to draw, so I'm just going to. Right. So the left of this frame has a key light. The right of this frame also has more like a key or a fill light, and one in the back. The one light visible here is not our AD200. The light which is here right behind the bride and groom is the light that we are using. I will probably, when we go on some other images, it will be visible where the light is kept. So I don't know if you can see, this is our AD200 Pro, which was lighting up this couple. So that is typically, okay, somebody's saying full screen. I'll just make it full screen. Yeah. So this is the light that I was talking about. If you can see, this is the AD200 Pro, and in this scene, the light is right behind the couple. This light, which I'm pointing to, is not the AD200. This is the light at the wedding venue. And facing the couple from the camera side, on the left side of the camera, there is one light on a tripod, on a stand, one light on the right side, again on a stand. Both of these are, I think, the V1s. And so this is a 3 light setup. This is typically how we light up a screen. The difference between this and a high key lighting would be, let's say, for example, if this would have been lit up in a slightly more contrasty way, what would have happened is only this would have been visible. So this is not typically our style. This is not what we like to do. We like to give you a full overview of the background. We like to include the foreground. We like to light up the entire screen or the entire scene in a way that the decor gets highlighted, the ambience gets highlighted. So what you're asking about is, what is my style? This is ideally my style, in which we use a blend of the background, the foreground, using the couple, lighting it up properly, lighting up the environment properly. Otherwise, these bubbles would have gotten missed. The lights in the background would have gotten very diffused. So this is typically our style. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through the questions people have asked on Facebook. Okay, sound is not good. Okay. How to best use V1 in wedding photography. We are going to be talking about that throughout today. Then for that, we should use a grid. Okay, so here we are using, we are not using grids here. We are using diffusers like those, these kind of diffusers, or something like a mag sphere. So we generally use this so that the light is not really harsh, but typically what happens is when in a wedding, you cannot really predict a lot of movement of the couple. And what happens is you need to be prepared to have the overall scene captured properly. So like if you're looking at this screen, if I would have kept my light on a grid, it would have been very difficult for me to predict where the couple is going to stand. If I would have missed my grid focus, maybe my light assistant would have not been able to mark the area where the couple was standing properly. This entire setup would have gone bad. So it is really important that for key moments like the entries or like the sangeet or maybe the engagement, where you know that okay, there is something going to happen around a particular area, it is all right to set up your lights there beforehand. If you don't do that, you are at a huge risk of missing that moment. A lot of people use one light assistant, and the light assistants are sometimes just helpers who have no knowledge of what lighting is. They will just hold the stand and they'll keep moving around with you. So that is something that is very risky for weddings. I feel if you're a good photographer, your light assistant or your light helper needs to be well educated about lighting. He should be more aware about lighting. He should understand the color tones and the color of the environment at that particular moment. He should understand whether he needs to give in front light or whether he needs to go back and give a backlight or a side light. So these are the factors wherein you have to choose whether you want to use a grid or whether you want to be a little more safer, use a sphere or use a diffuser. A lot of people have asked me if we use soft boxes at weddings. We never use soft boxes at weddings. A lot of my second photographers complain that our light is slightly harsh and we are not able to sort of soften the whole look of the bride and groom. You can always do that, even if you're using spheres, even if you're using a grid, you can always do that. But for aesthetical reasons, we do not carry soft boxes or round things around and umbrellas and stuff like that. Okay, so what is the camera setting and flash setting for the picture in the screen? That should be very easy to see. Okay. I'll just read it out. Are you able to see this? Okay. Let me just share another screen. Okay, I think the side is not visible. So the setting here says it's shot at 35 mm, 1:160 at f2.8. Flash did fire. It is shot on a Nikon Z6 with a 2470 lens. So as you can see, this is a typical 35 mm shot. I use this 35 mm focal length a lot. I generally like to keep it on a safe lens whenever there is a lot of action happening. This was the entry of the bride and groom. So this is where we have kept a 2470, and the lighting of this scene is the XF information doesn't say that, but I've already explained we used a 3 light setup. One was backlight, and there were 2 lights in the front. How do you set up lights in dance or Sangeet? Do you keep it static or moving? Okay, so let me show you a couple of shots from their Sangeet. So this is the Sangeet happening. This is this image. You can see another one of my lights is here. This light is not popped. That means we have disabled this light for this particular moment. Because there is good backlight happening, we are not using our AD here. So this is only being lit up by 2 front lights. I'll show you some more images. So like these kind of images, all of these images that I'm showing you are lit either by 2 front lights and 1 backlight, or 2 front lights and no backlight. That is our typical Sangeet setup. Me and my main second photographer, we generally share the light system with us. 8200s have a lot of power and a lot of backup, so we never really miss any flashes despite 2 photographers using the same light. So typically that 2 light setup is good enough for us for the entire scene. The other photographers, we generally keep 1 photographer who's using a on-camera flash. I might be able to show you some of those images. That is required because there are times when our static light setup cannot reach that particular moment. For example, this shot is being lit up by our photographer who has possibly used the on-camera flash. This shot is definitely from the side light, and if you look at some other images as well, you'll be able to see that for some image like this, you only require the front light. You don't require a backlight here. Again, you'll see the 8200 is here on the stand. It is not fired because this was not required. For this image, you can see that the 8200 was fired. We wanted this because the background became very dark. So we activated this, and around this, all the other images would be backlit by the same light. So you see this slight definition on the side of her hair. All that is coming from the AD that we are using. In some of these, the flash is visible. In some of the pictures, the flash is not visible, but you can see that whenever we need it, we fire the flash, and whenever we don't require it, we disable it. Okay, AD 200 has 200 watt power, 860 has 75 watt. Okay, well, somebody's answering, I think. Okay, how will we be able to use the torchlight in wedding for creative shots? I think you mean the modeling light. It is too weak to do anything creative. It is just in very dark situations when your camera cannot focus. I think that is the main requirement of that little torchlight that you're talking about. How will we able to use? Can we combine 280-200s for key and 1V for backlight? You can definitely do that, Ajit. The biggest problem is 80-200 is a more powerful light. V1 is a low powered light. If you keep it at the back, you'll have to end up firing it at full power. It is going to heat up. It is going to have a long wait time of maybe about 2 or 2.5 seconds. So that refresh rate is not going to help you if it is a Sangeet. So we always keep the most powerful lights at the back, and we keep the diffuse lights in the front, so that the diffuse lights are generally at about 1/4 of the power. There are 2 diffuse lights, so that combines it into half power. The 8200, again, we generally keep it at half power so that the recycle time is higher. Did only one 8200 in background suffice? See, Vivek, the problem is there is no limit to what we can do in weddings. I would love to put into 8200s. I would love to put in like a huge octa in the front and create the best light possible. But the thing is, we are 4 photographers or 5 photographers working at one particular Sangeet event. So typically what we do is we have to share resources. We don't want to keep stands everywhere and block the area of the Sangeet. So what we typically do is we generally keep 2 or 3 front lights for the main photographers who are shooting the Sangeet. We keep one backlight to sort of give them support whenever the stage lights or the power cans of the stage go low. We keep one photographer on camera flash. So that on-camera flash makes sure that he's able to capture a little bit of reaction shots. He's able to sort of move around, and when everything goes dark in between the Sangeet, he's able to sort of capture everything. So we do that kind of a combination. So we generally do not carry more than sufficient number of what we require. But yes, if given, if it's a very big stage, if it's a very big set, we have used multiple lights at the back also. Anand Rajoli, I do not see your question. If you can just write it again. Okay, so I'm going to again move to my screen and take you to some of the other images. For example, these kind of images. So if you see this image, this is clearly being lit up with one light on camera left. This open area is where the light is coming from. One backlight is also giving support to this particular shot. Then there are moments like these where there is very strong light in the front, and you will see a little bit of my flash here. This is where I have again used our foreground flash to sort of fill up this entire scene. I would have just kept this as a silhouette as well, but I mean, you can say personal preference. I wanted to have all the bubbles lit up. I wanted to have a little more than a silhouette for this movement. Again, another movement in which we have one moving side light, another movement in which we have one assistant who is helping us with the key light. This is a key light, typically a Godox V1 on stand, and our assistant is moving around, pointing the light to the couple's faces. Then there are these portraits where we get a lot of time to set up. We know what can be done, and you can see that this scene is properly lit up. We have backlight and we have a little bit of ambient light. So all this can happen when we have sufficient time, when we know that okay, this shot is happening, or the guests are going to be coming here, and we can do something with it. Then there are these typical group shots. We have not used multiple lights in these. These are all taken with one on-camera V860 standard 2470 lens. Make them stand, and just with a on-camera flash, this has been achieved. So there is you can see that all this is not really properly exposed because this is a bounce flash, and yeah, so all these basic shots are with on-camera flash. So it is not that on-camera flash is pathetic and you cannot create images with it. On-camera flash is sometimes really the only sufficient thing required, and you don't need stands and you don't need assistants all the time. Okay, so there are some more images. Okay, I'm going to come back to the questions. Outdoor lighting during golden hours. Okay, I'm going to go to that. Couple portrait shoot on MacGel or MacGrid. Okay, so let me just go to some of their. All right, so all these, there are some couple pictures. So they had their hashtag in the back, so they wanted a quick picture here. So all these quick pictures are where, you know, they are just walking through and we don't really know if they are going to stop there or if we are going to get a chance to sort of do anything. So this is all done with one moving light. This is done with a I think most probably we have used a mag sphere in this, uh, because you can see that the entire clothes are lit. I generally prefer to use a mag sphere or like a diffuser than a grid. Grid is for very specific purposes. Like I said, with the grid, you can totally kill the background sometimes. So you have to be very careful. For for a shot like this, you don't really need to choose between a grid or a sphere, because everything is black. There is nothing that is going to get enhanced, so it doesn't matter here. But there are certain other images which probably I can show you where a grid, for example, this image, this is a typical guest shot where you know, they have a photo booth and the guests are coming and they want a picture or a portrait. So, you know, all these shots are generally lit up with a grid. Why we use a grid here is because we don't want to spill the light in the back. Uh, what happens is, let me just make it full screen. What happens in these kind of shots is if we use a sphere, the light is going to get spilled into all the greens in the back. It is going to get lit up and it is going to kill the entire shot. So that is why there are times when we only use a grid, or there are times when we only use a sphere. It all depends on, are we interested in showing the background or not. A shot like this is a great shot for a grid. You need fall off. You don't want a lot of other things to be lit up. If we use a sphere at this kind of a shot, the entire birds and the sides of the entire greens are going to get lit up. So that is where the difference between a grid and a sphere comes up. Based on your work and budget to start with, you can buy a Godox trigger. And okay, I'm sorry, I'm just reading somebody's answers. How do you manage time for couple portraits? I think that is a very subjective question. We'll have to, I think, discuss couple portraits. A lot of you are asking about couple portraits. I wanted to talk about weddings today, focus on wedding events, like the Mehendi, Sangeet, cocktail parties, and the wedding. So I think we'll have to keep couple portrait sessions as a separate topic sometime. I'll probably speak to Godox to give me another slot and we'll talk about couple portraits. What are, guys, when you're asking a question, please put a question mark to it, because I think I'm just reading a conversation. So do you deliver all pictures to the clients or do you select on your own? See, we always have to select pictures. We cannot deliver all the pictures to the client, because if I'll show you, there are a lot of pictures which have you know, the eyes are closed, or the flash is not popped, or the picture is not in focus. So that is the first level of cleanup that we do. The second level of cleanup is when we have multiple shots in which for example, let me again show you some examples. So for example, this person is standing here, and there are certain, or let's say there is one picture like this, and there is another option, and there is a third option, and there is a fourth option. So you see this, do you want to deliver this to the client? No. So that is why we need to choose what image from that series is the best. We always take up 4 or 5 shots whenever there is a portrait happening or whenever there is a fun element or fun shot happening, and we have to skip the other ones, the 3 or 4 or 5 pictures around that perfect shot, because sometimes they just don't make sense. Uh, okay, I'm just going to read where there is a question mark. For creating rim, bare flash or flash with grid is better. Ajit, for a rim light, you need a very strong light, and it all depends if you're doing a 100% blackout. Let me actually show you an example in case I have some. All right, let me show you some. Okay, I'm not able to find it, but so coming back to your question, for a rim light to be effective, you need to see how much of that light is going to spill in your camera. If that light is right behind the couple, or if that light is being hidden on the sides outside the camera frame, you can definitely use a bare flash. You don't need to put in a grid. The bare flash gives a very realistic kind of a rim light. It sort of gives you a very spotlight kind of a look. I really like it. We use it a lot. At the same time, if you use a flash with a grid, then you can move that flash very close to the subject. You can move it around in the camera frame. So that is a very big advantage of getting the grid. You just have to be careful about the light spill in your lens. So if you can cut that, you don't actually need a grid. Can you show some makeup shoot with flash? Okay. So now we are talking about weddings. So I just posted a picture today, which is from a makeup shoot. I don't know if you guys saw it on Instagram. I am Ramit Batra Photography on Instagram, in case you haven't seen that. I just posted a picture. I'll just show that image to you. So this is of a bride. This is, one of those favorite shots that I like to do in every wedding. This is basically a shot where, in case we are doing evening wedding, and I would like to replicate sunlight falling in the room. This is the kind of shot that I do. So I'll just show this to you. So this is the bride getting ready. Well, she's already ready, I think. I have to. Okay, just trying to reach that particular moment. Where is it? I'm sorry, I can't find it. It's so many pictures here. Okay. Okay. So this image is one of my favorite images of how I like to sort of show the bride when she is getting ready. It's a single flash on the top right of the bride. So if you see the quality of the light which is falling, so it's just one single light with a grid falling, that kind of light which looks like it is light falling from a window, or a light falling from a curtain, a gap of a curtain. So this is what I love to do when the brides are getting ready. I don't like those typical makeup shots and that brush and all that nonsense that happens. I'm not a big fan of that, but I like to capture these kind of moments during when she's getting ready. So I'll show you some other pictures as well of when she has. So this is one image where I missed that, or my light assistant missed the light to fall in the right direction, and this is where we got the catch light as well. So you can see that this is done with a grid, and it is very restricted light falling on the bride. And this is something which I really like to do. So this is what the definition of makeup shots or getting ready shots is for me. So, just the bride spending time, whatever she's doing, detailed shots of her lehenga or her footwear with her sister, maybe a detailed shot of her wedding ring. So, all these are again very ambient shots. All of these images are using some kind of artificial light. Uh, for all these images, most of my pictures are, the person who's helping me is my videographer, because here we are always short of manpower. So I never take an assistant with me here. So this is where it's just me and my videographer who's there with the bride, and one team is at the venue. Why at the venue? Because the bride's family would have come. Sorry, I think the light went out. Just give me a second. Kanishka? Okay, sorry. So I think I'm shining a little bit. So during the getting ready session, I am not the kind of person who's going to take in an assistant and sort of hog all the manpower. So what I typically do is I let the videographer help me in the lighting, and this is where we are using one off-camera V1 to sort of light up the scene. And you can see that there is a lot of light coming in from one direction. This is again coming in from one direction. So I like to sort of give in the feel that it is daylight, or it is it is not dark inside. So that kind of a feel is very important for me, and that is the getting ready shots for me. Which modifier is best for catch light, Octa or beauty dish? I think the beauty dish and Octa both have a very different kind of a light feel to it. Like I think right now I am using what you can see, my face is all glowing. That is because of a beauty dish in the front, and it is slightly overpowered right now. So it is creating that slight specularity. So it has a very different definition of light. At the same time, the Octa is a very massive soft light. So for makeup, for a bride, the beauty dish is amazing. But it'll be, I think it'll be pretty much impossible to sort of carry a beauty dish to a wedding shoot. But at the same time, if you have an option of carrying a small Octa or a big Octa, that is the closest you can get to a beauty dish. The only sort of disadvantage of an Octa is the softness of it. I mean, we use the Octa for the softness, but it also kills a lot of detail in jewelry. And when a bride is all ready with makeup and all, she is technically flawless. So that softness sort of makes that makeup even more subdued. So I feel you have to enhance a little bit of the sharpness and the rendition of that image, but otherwise it's pretty much, I would say, 18-20 in terms of quality. All right. Hey, Arjun. Which modifier? If you have the option to shoot a bride outdoor and indoor both, which one will you prefer the most? We will create both scenarios. So, like, if you can look at this set, we had the option. It is, as you can see, it is sunset, and the bride is indoors. So we have used both kind of light quality of the indoor light and merged it with outdoor light. So we have used both kind of sets here. And there are certain shots that, when you talk to the bride, there are certain shots that she wants. So she always wanted pictures which are very ambient, which sort of showcase that she is around the beach, around in Thailand, and not in just any other hotel. So this getting her out at the right time, wherein you can see a little bit of reflections, you can see a little bit of palm trees and stuff. All this was very important to sort of, it's a very storytelling thing for me to do. But at the same time, we have done these kind of shots which were indoors. We have done these kind of pictures which she really, really would like. So it's a mix. I would never just do indoors or just do outdoors. I think a lot of photographers do outdoor shoots because I think they're pretty lazy. I think they just don't want to use lights, and they're like, let's just do it outdoors. There is good sunlight, and let's just do it. End it with that. I think putting in a good mix of lights, indoors and outdoors, gives us such a huge variety to the bride that you've just actually created a different story from just one room, one resort, one palm tree. Those three elements, if you use with light and without light, you've actually created 6 scenes, 6 or 7 or 8 scenes out of just one room with a balcony or one room with a palm tree outside. So don't restrict yourself. I feel it's much better to sort of use all kinds of scenarios. If you want full background in photos, then which light is good, with a grid or spare? I did not get your question. If you want a full background in photos, any light is good as long as your camera settings are proper. You cannot have a very high key kind of very shallow depth with that particular light. And if you want to include the background, you have to have something of a smaller aperture like a f4 or f5, and then you have to bump in a little bit of the ISO. Then you have to add in the light so that it fills up the entire space. It doesn't just fill up the subject and fades off. So all that is very important. It is not just the light, and grid will especially not help you if you want the full background in photos. You have to probably use a softer light, or you have to tone down the light if you're using the grid, and then rely on a little bit of your camera's light capturing power. How to take sharp photos with flashlight at weddings? Use a slightly higher aperture, like a f4, 5, f8. Because what happens is, especially in low light, the camera is able to focus, but there is a slight delay between your focus and your click and your flash being popped, and so that entire thing creates a slight misfocus. Sometimes your subject has moved, or your subject is, especially during a sangeet or something, when they are actually not static, it just creates a slight motion adjustment which is required. So I feel when you're using a slightly shallow aperture, like sorry, not a shallow, like a smaller aperture, like a f4, 5, I think you can just get over that slight fuzziness. Can you tell us about light directions while entry or without affecting the ambience? I had just shown those, especially during the. So let's look at this one. For example, This is one image which I had posted on Instagram a while back, and a lot of you loved it. So this is when, you've seen that the bride was she was getting ready when the sunset was happening, and we got her out. We got some pictures. We did some pictures when she was indoors. So all that, the barat reached, and so the sun had already set. So if you can see, I can't point it there. So if you can see right behind the couple, the sun has already set. So this was getting really dark. So I had to really boost my ISO. I think this was shot at, actually no, this is shot at ISO 500, and I have used a little bit of a fill flash. So what has happened is the sunlight is behind the couple. So the sunlight is actually creating a kind of a backlight for the couple. There are these side lights again, which are adding a little bit of light to it. So all I needed to do here was to add in some front light. So my assistant is somewhere on the right. You see this gentleman in the pagadi with the phone. My assistant is somewhere here on the right side of this frame, and we have just managed to sort of light this up. This was done with you can see a little bit of shadow as well. So this is done with a sphere and V1, and this is pretty much a very a very quick shot that we got very lucky with, because we were able to capture the entirety of the scene. So this is where you need to sort of make sure that your flash is not overpowering, otherwise you will miss out on the background. When there is not black background, how do you make it black background for bride making shot? So when you use a very strong light mixed with a very small aperture like a f8, you're technically killing all the light in that room. So whatever your flash is going to create in terms of wherever the light splash of your flash will fall is going to get lit up, and that makes the entire background black. So let me show you an example of an after party where we do this a lot. So this is, so for example, we have these kind of shots. So here we have actually killed the background by overpowering our flash in the picture. So this is totally opposite of what I was showing you during the Sangeet. In Sangeet, we were lighting up everything properly. We were creating backlight. We were creating two diffused front lights. Here, we are just using a on-camera flash. We are pointing a grid to the face, and we are using a very small aperture, like maybe a f22 or f20, and we are using a very high powered one, like a full flash on their faces. And we are using a very small very long shutter exposure here. So this is probably at half a second. So this is exposed for half a second, and we are able to get this all blurred blue decor in the background, and we are able to sort of focus on the subject. So these are some kind of pictures which is totally opposite of what we do in Sangeets. Okay. In some basic wedding, there was so much of rush and entry of groom. How to set the light? Athar Pandey, your question is what we have to face in all the weddings. All the weddings have a rush of entry of the groom. All the weddings have, a crazy schedule. So in these kind of weddings, in this kind of a scenario, or the barat, or let's say maybe the Varmala, you have to be ready with a flash on top of your camera. There is no excuse to sort of have an assistant, and that assistant is not able to make his way into the main zone. So I don't think it actually makes sense to sort of miss images because your assistant is not able to point to the right direction. I think forget about the quality of anything. If you're able to capture that movement with proper light on top of your camera, just put a flash, put a mag sphere or something, and just capture it properly. Okay. Do you use Opta or Beauty Dish in weddings? No, we do not. I would never, like I said, I don't take soft boxes and stuff to my weddings. Uh, will Octa go better with a V1 or R1 diffuser? It actually doesn't matter. It all what matters is what kind of light do you want? How powerful is your light? It could be a V1, it could be a AD600 Pro. If you are using 1/64th of power of a AD600 Pro, you can actually just put in a V1. If you have a LED background and dance performance going on stage, how can we manage to get perfect light on the performers as the background has too much light? So this is typically where you need a 4 light setup, Pratyush. You can put in 2 front diffuse lights. You can put in 2 strong backlights. So you'll be able to sort of have a separation from the LED and to whatever is happening in the center. Otherwise, everything is going to get merged, because if you only use lights in the front, it is going to get carried through to the LED, and it is going to kill the ambience of that LED. So you can actually sort of reduce the aperture, have something like a f4, f8 zone, and use slightly stronger lights, and keep the focus on the subjects inside the stage. And the LED wall will already have its own power, its own light, so that might just go well with whatever light setup you have actually put in. Okay, Rushang, I've just answered how to take sharp photos with flashlight at a wedding. If you think your photos are fuzzy, you can actually reduce the aperture to f4. If you still feel that you're not able to get sharp focus, you can reduce it to 8. There are just a couple of things that make sure that your image is sharp. Your lens should not have a spill of light in whenever you're using your flash. So that is where you can use grids. The second thing is, if you're using a lens which is, or maybe a lens cover, a lens filter which is slightly dirty, that can also cause a lot of haziness and make your images not very sharp. So if you feel that maybe your 50 or 85 is not creating that sharp quality of images, just take that UV filter out, and take those portraits without the filter. And the third thing is your camera settings. Maybe your shutter speed is too low. Maybe your ISO is too high, that when you actually take it to for your edit, the entire image looks fuzzy. Okay. Okay, so I think it's already 7, so I'm just going to touch a couple of other topics which we have not touched so far. So a lot of people had asked whether we use lights during the day. So yes, we use a lot of lights during the day, especially during gloomy weather, especially in overcast weather. If you see an image like this is not possible without having a fill flash. It's all very gloomy. It's all very dark. If you look at an image without the flash and with the flash, you'll be able to see the difference. I hope you're able to see the difference, how dark the face is without the flash. And when we are using the flash, it is all lit up. So a flash is not always a solution for evening shots and for pre-wedding portraits where you have seen that you want to use in some particular style. You can use in your flash during the day for filling up the light, especially when there is gloomy weather, especially when there is no sun. Once the sun comes out, it's all right. You don't actually need to use the flash. But when the sun is not there, I think it's very important that you add a little bit of kick to the pictures. I'll show you some more pictures where we have used the flash and some where we haven't. So this is something which is all indoor, like under the sort of the tent, and this is outdoors. So this is when the sun comes out and we stop using the flash. So then we use the sunlight to our benefit then. So all these images are through the direct sunlight. And as soon as we head indoors, or as soon as we want to balance out a little bit of the background, we start using our fill flash. Again, this image, no flash was used, but as we go inside, again, we start using the flash. Okay. So last set of questions. To create good portraits, will a V1, I have already answered that. How can we use flashlight while taking the decor pictures? Okay, Abhay, you already know the answer to it, but so typically when we are using decor and we have to capture the decor, the lights that you use cannot be on camera. You have to use a little bit of diffuse. You have to let the light fall on the decor itself. So here, as you can see, that the center of this particular image is being lit. Everything else is gloomy. So we think of the center of the decor element that we want to light up as the subject or as the couple, and use the image as how you would light up a couple. So it's a very simple scenario. Just stop thinking of the decor as big or as you want to light up the whole thing. Start lighting it up in pieces. If you feel that you are unable to light it up in pieces and it's not looking good, you will have to use HDR techniques of combining 2 or 3 different elements of that particular decor, light up 2 or 3 different elements, and then merge them together. Do you always use off-body flash throughout the wedding, both indoor and outdoor events? I try to use off-camera flash. I have the liberty and the freedom to use it, Pratyush, because I generally shoot, like our weddings are really massive. And most of the weddings that we shoot, I generally have about 3 or 4 other photographers who are working with me. So my lead photographer, whoever is my second photographer, the lead photographer is given the freedom to sort of use an off-camera flash with me, but our second photographers are told to use on-body camera flashes. So in case we miss certain movements, or in case our assistant is not pointing at the right direction and we miss it, we don't want that the safe shot is also missed. So we also have people who are shooting with on-camera flash. So we use a mix of both. But me in particular, I do not like to use on-camera flash. I have stopped using it, but there are situations where I need to use it, so I generally bounce it from the roof or a wall behind, or sometimes I just this is what I do. Sometimes I'll just take the camera with me and I'll take the flash with me and I'll start using it like that, so that I can change the angle, and with one hand I use the camera. How do you tackle when shooting outdoor weddings at day, sunlight time, after half faces had shadows, dark or reflections over them? Will you use lights in those conditions? If yes, which ones? Kuntal, I think you have worked with me quite a lot. We always use fill light. I had just shown some examples of how we use fill lights. It is very important that in certain area, like let me actually put in an example and talk about it. So we're looking at this. So images like these, where there is direct sunlight falling on the bride, and we want to sort of make it a little more diffused. What we generally like to do is we generally like to overpower the light of the sun, and with that you need very strong lights. So you need something like a 8200 or something with a off camera, with a diffuser, and then try to sort of fill it up. If if that is not possible, or if you feel that the sunlight is really harsh and the sun is like right on the top, I think the biggest thing that we can do is we can use that side where the dark area is, or if the sun is here and the sun is falling on my face, I would like to sort of turn around and sort of use that as a backdrop. So the sun becomes your rim light, and then your flash need not have so much power to sort of overpower the sun, which you technically cannot do. So if you're facing the sun, the only solution is to sort of have a very strong light with a diffuser, or like a mag sphere on top of it, and have your assistant kind of try to fill it. Okay, I'm just taking 3 quick questions after this. You shoot in RAW? Yes, I shoot in RAW. 8200 enough for stage shots? 8200 is never enough, but 8200 is really small. So instead of taking one 8600, we can carry 2 or 3 8200. So we would always prefer to do that. Save the session after live. I don't know how to do that, but I'll try. When using on-camera flash, what you use, mag sphere or mag bounce? It all depends, Manish. We have spoken about different modifiers: sphere, grid, bounce, direct flash, bounce from a wall. All that is totally dependent on the kind of light that you require. Do you recommend light meter, or how to adjust power of flash? I always keep a light meter handy with me. I don't know if you can see it. I have a Seaconic light meter. It's a very basic light meter. I can even check what kind of light I'm getting. At ISO 100, I'm getting like very little light right now. So I can actually check the amount of light, but during weddings, unless we are doing portraits and we know exactly where we are going to do a portrait, I would actually take it out, and typically we never have so much time. So I end up not using it. But if you are following me on Instagram, you must have seen a calendar photo shoot that I did over the last 3 or 4 months. So there, to get the skin tones right, to get the environment right, I had used the light meter categorically, so that everything is right and all the images have a certain equal level of noise. And so it was all technical. So I ended up using a light meter extensively for those shots. All right. How to adjust power of flash, Vivek? That is a light meter is like a totally different ball game. We need a full session for that. Okay, then. So I think I'll call it an evening. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I know I could not touch up on topics of the pre-wedding shoot and outdoor shooting with the lights. So I'm going to request Godox to give me another session, maybe in a couple of days, and we can then talk about the Godox lights and how we use those lights for our pre-wedding shoots or couple portraits. So I think we'll probably get a session where we'll only talk about couple portraits and couple shoots and pre-wedding shoots. We'll not touch the weddings. If you have any other questions, you can join me. I keep going live, so you can see when I'm going live next on my Instagram. I'm at Ramit Batra Photography on Instagram and Facebook. And thank you so much. I hope the session was enjoyable and you could learn a few things out of this. Thank you so much, guys.